back to the task at hand here. When you think about Tennessee and the expectations for this year, especially as it relates to the last couple seasons, what do you think's a reality for where they fit in the SEC East?
I have no idea. And the reason I don't have an idea is because, look, Tennessee last year was decimated by injury. And we all know it. They lost some key players in some key spots. But you lose 17 starters. You come into the season with a guy that's never played quarterback in the SEC before. And Butch Jones has to have a good season. He has to have a good season. The only problem is Georgia and Florida are going to have good seasons. Yeah. So, look, he's just like we talked about the West with Auburn and LSU. Tennessee is that third-tier team, maybe, because Kentucky is creeping, South Carolina is creeping. And the problem you don't want to run into if you're Butch Jones is that South Carolina jumps you or Kentucky jumps you because of talent. I just don't know where Tennessee is going to be. I'm going to put them at 3 because of recruiting and the names that'll be on the field. But it could be a lot of trouble this year on Rocky Top if they don't produce. And I think they have to win one of those games or play them real competitively for the fan base to continue to have the brick-by-brick mentality that's been preached for the last 4 to 5 years.
I understand the frustration, and I am not one for excuses. But this is the toughest league in college football, especially when you have injuries.
Absolutely.
And right now, guys, what Butch Jones inherited a few years ago, it was absolutely as bare a cupboard as you can possibly find in this league. I haven't seen anything quite like, especially at a name brand team, quite like that. It was unbelievable how few playmakers they had. They got by a little bit with smoke and mirrors, but the depth of the program is still trying to catch up to those that already have a leg up, like Alabama, like Florida, and then like Georgia even to a certain extent, where they let go of their coach after a 10-win season. Tennessee was in a complete rebuild, and where they're at right now, by the way, in the SEC, in their last 19 SEC games, they're 15-4. The only school that's better is Alabama, who's 18-1. So I think people lose sight of what Butch Jones has accomplished. And if they're trying to hold themselves to a standard that Alabama set, they're going to fall well short. But if you consider where this program was to where it is now, I think Vol fans should feel pretty good about the direction of the program.
I completely agree. I mean, it's been since 2002, 2004 that they've had this type of success 3 years in a row. So that's completely overlooked when it comes to Butch Jones. I think he deserves that credit, but I don't even have him as third. And here's my reason. Where's the identity? On offense, you lose Dobbs, you lose Kamara. What's their identity? Okay, and I like what Quentin Dormady did in the spring game. I think he's going to provide. Yeah, he's solid. It's a different offense. Now, what about on defense? You're replacing production, Barnett, and not only that, Bob Shoop speaks his defense in the language of calculus.
Yes.
They are in long division right now at best.
You know that from experience having played against
his frustration with how he's having to call this defense because of the injuries. They have no consistency in any aspect of it. So where's the identity? I don't see it. That's my trouble with Tennessee.
They much like Arkansas, like we talked about a little while ago, they better pick up the pace in the trenches. Their offensive line, they returned 111 starts. 109 of those were terrible starts. And to be real, this offensive line, a lot of those guys had 5 stars, 4 stars next to their name when they signed on the dotted line. And one of the top recruits in the country is likely going to be starting for them this year. Doesn't mean that experience is going to necessarily translate to production or talent or high level of play. That group needs to get a heck of a lot better because they're not going to have Josh Dobbs behind them to bail them out by running around. And then the defensive line, too. Why can this defensive line, particularly defensive tackles, why can't they stop the run and be stout in the middle? Khalil McKenzie's 340 pounds. Why can't he be stout? He gets out of position, and I know he was banged up with injuries, and Vickers was the only defensive tackle that played a lot of snaps last year and the only guy that started every single game. But I want that defensive line group to step up because they're capable, and they haven't yet.
I'm with Jordan. I don't know the psyche of the Tennessee Volunteers, not only the psyche of the football team, but of the fan base. Look, we can talk around it, but fan bases get coaches fired. Fan bases tell you most of the time where this program is trending. I don't know where they are in Rocky Top right now with that mentality, because I'm gonna go back to this. I think right now at the University of Tennessee, a lot of fans, a lot of people that are close to the program are saying opportunity missed with what they had and who they put on the field the last 2 years. They legitimately felt like, and I did as well because I picked them to win the East, that their opportunity was now. Now the problem is Kirby at Georgia has put a fence around that state for the last, especially this last
Moving
year,
forward, yeah.
we're recruiting. Jim McElroy at the University of Florida going back-to-back SEC championships, and now you're starting to see Florida's program begin to have those same type of conversations that we talked about 6 or 7 years ago. You have to catch fire when the opportunity presents itself, and I think for right now, people on Rocky Top are saying, has that window closed for us now that the two main big dogs usually are back to where they are?
Yeah, and certainly a tough pill to swallow for Volunteers fans last year when the expectations were so incredibly high. More discussion to come from these guys. Austin Allen